I'm doing great, thanks. How about you?
Yeah, I'm good. So this is just I'm going to do kind of a quick version of a mini version, if you will, of advertising reminders, and it's just kind of a hot button issue right now in our industry as a whole with advertising violations. I'm just doing like an abbreviated version, so we're going to go over that. So it's just largely misunderstood. So basically, we have our statute here, which is license law. And license law Title 43 says that all real estate activities have to be under the direct management of the broker and the direct supervision of the broker, which means the broker has to know about it and, review it. It also says, and this again is license law, that the broker has to review all advertising to ensure compliance.
Right.
So that's again something that agents have got to be looping their broker in and making sure that before they create a logo, a custom sign, etc., a postcard, whatever, they're actually supposed to get it blessed by the broker. That's the law.
Hmm.
Goes on to say, that all advertising includes business cards, yard signs, including but not limited to. So it could be any number of things: print ads, postcards, social media, email signatures, voicemails. Um, Anytime you as a licensee are identifying yourself as being in the real estate business, you have to identify the broker holding your license. What we're having teams out there, especially or individual agents, especially on social media, advertising to the public that they're in the real estate business, but then they're not actually referring to the name of the brokerage that holds their license. And when it comes to property advertising, you have to make sure that you are abiding by the Georgia Real Estate Commission rules on font size, frequency, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, I have a note here at the bottom that agents are like fingers attached to the body. There's no such thing as an agent identifying that they're in the real estate business or that their quote unquote team is in the real estate business without the body being referenced. One thing that people tend to get a little laxed on too is their voicemail greetings, where they're saying, "Hey, this is the Angie team, blah blah blah." Well, it's the Angie team can't stand alone. You're a finger attached to the body. Another thing that people I see violating when it comes to advertising is their email signatures, where they either are stating that they're a realtor or they're in the real estate business, but they're not stating who their brokerage is licensed with. So these are statutory requirements. I see Amy just joined us. Amy, we're talking about the statutes that control licensing that have to be under the direct supervision and also approved by brokers, and how agents can never ever identify themselves as being in the real estate business in any form or fashion without identifying the name of the brokerage. And you've got to be very careful with your team name that that you don't ever advertise the team name by itself or your corporation. If, for instance, you get paid to a corporation, which is strictly for tax purposes, that corporation, like the Amy Tozer team, for example, or the Carlin, whatever LLC, it can't practice real estate. It's always got to contain the name of the brokerage, all advertising. If you want to include the team name, great, and then the name of you, the licensee, because the brokerage and you are the licensees, not the entity that you get paid your paycheck to, which is allowed strictly for tax purposes. Okay, cannot engage in any of the following discriminatory practices based on fair housing, but you will have people use pictures of groups or use what I call the F word in your advertising family. And as we look at the rules, which I'm going to go over in a moment, you'll see where it specifically says do not direct any advertising to any group. And so familial status is a protected category. And so we just really want to make sure we're not referring to people at all in our advertising ever, that we're not referring to people at all or groups of people. There's a human being that's reading the ad, and we're going to sell what we sell, which is the real estate, the dirt, the house, improvements, etc. That's what we're focused on. Avoiding inaccurate or misleading advertising. This is kind of, I talk a lot in class. You guys have heard me say it. Rule number 1, don't take advice from other agents. Rule number 2, don't take advice from customers and clients. I use a scenario in class where I'm like, you have a seller who's in a cookie cutter neighborhood, without a doubt, the neighborhood is zoned single family residential. But they tell you at the listing appointment, we finished our basement. My mother used to live there. She passed away. But we want you to put this on the market as an apartment with rental income, because we think that's going to get us, it's a money-making business. You can't do that if that is not in line with zoning, because this neighborhood and that house does not have a variance. It's still zoned single family, not multifamily, and you can't advertise it to somebody that they're going to be buying something that's legitimately multifamily when it's not. And as far as the improvements that they did, they are what they are. You can describe it as a basement with a kitchen and a basement with a bedroom, if indeed that bedroom is a true bedroom and meets the definition of a bedroom. But if they did all that without getting any of it permitted, then that has to be disclosed in the seller's disclosure statement or by you, the agent, in writing. If the work is unpermitted, they have to disclose that. That's actually considered a defect. But you can't say it's an apartment or it's multifamily, and it can be legally used this way. If people want to buy it and say, this is like great, and we don't care, we love this extra space, this is perfect for us, they're going to buy it no matter what, if it fits their needs. And the key is it just has to be disclosed, and you can't misadvertise as if it's something is correctly zoned that way when it's not. Okay, so you have to have written consent of the owner or the owner's authorized signer, like their power of attorney, or I should say their attorney in fact. And if people say, I'm signing on a corporation, go ahead right out of the gate and let them know you're going to need the document that gives them that signing authority. If they say they've got a power of attorney, then they are signing as Angie Mezza-Smith as a attorney in fact for Amy Tozer. Then I have to produce that power of attorney. We've got to make sure that it is a proper power of attorney for real estate transactions, because not all power of attorneys are correct, and we have to make sure and see that document. Same thing with corporate docs. We need operating agreements, because at the end of the day, we've got to see, are there partners, are there other authorized signers, et cetera, et cetera. So, we have to have written consent. And we also have to make sure that we've got proof that the people who are signing today this listing agreement, if they were called upon tomorrow to sit at a closing table and sign a deed over to the property, that the same people have the power to sign that deed tomorrow that are signing the listing agreement today. If there's absentee people, then you don't have a binding listing agreement. So if there's absentee spouses, regardless of what the settlement or what am I trying to say? The divorce decree might say about one person's authority to list a property. If there's two spouses, it's all about who's on title. And if someone's on title, they've got to sign. They've got to sign the listing agreement. They have to sign the purchase and sale agreement. They have to sign the closing docs to get this title transferred if that other spouse is still on title. So again, it's very important that we make sure that we understand that. And it's also required that we have specific terms as far as what we are advertising, what we're allowed to advertise. And if that changes, we have to do an amendment to the brokerage agreement, or there are addendum or listing change forms available if someone doesn't have access to GAR forms that are available in the FMLS and Georgia MLS internal forms as well. But either way, you have to have it in writing. And if things change, you have to have that in writing. So multiple listing procedures. This is something that a lot of agents don't know, and agents are out there breaking rule number 1 right and left, and they're violating this. And this is a very big deal, and you're not allowed to just disregard this rule. There's, as a realtor, there's this thing called clear cooperation, But then as a member of FMLS and as a member of Georgia MLS, you have a requirement that when you get an exclusive seller brokerage agreement or exclusive listing agreement signed with a seller, that you only have 48 hours or 2 business days to input that listing data into FMLS and into Georgia MLS. Now, I'll show you the map in a moment. For FMLS, if it's not in one of the compulsory counties that is shaded in green, then if you're a member and the property is not located in one of those compulsory counties, then you are exempt from having to put it in FMLS. But if it's in one of those compulsory counties and an exclusive, because the exclusive seller brokerage agreement gives so much power to that broker that has that exclusivity. So when you have that kind of power, you can't just keep it in that light under a bushel and say, oh, I'm just going to cherry pick who I show it to, and I'm not going to leave it, let everybody else in the world know about it, and keep this exclusive and try and sell it internally. You have 2 different sets of rules here. An exclusive right to sell, which is in our exclusive seller brokerage agreement, is a very, very powerful right. And you have to open it up for everyone. Hi, Amy, you had your hand up?
Yes, I'm so confused here. I mean, we sign listing agreements months in advance, or sometimes a month in advance, and this is saying that it has to go in the FMLS within 48 hours of them. I mean,
that's why we're having this conversation, because agents are doing that and they shouldn't be. I just had a meeting with one of our top producing agents and explained to her how she needs to restructure her stuff. And what you could do, which I would recommend, is instead of having a seller sign the exclusive seller listing agreement when they're not ready to go live, have them sign the non-exclusive. The reason I would say that is because the non-exclusive is not going to get you in trouble. You can put a sign if the seller agrees to allow a sign. There's a checkbox on that form. And it gives you all marketing rights, the right to show it, which you can't do during coming soon status. And it lets you do any kind of marketing you need to do on that property. You represent the seller as a client. The one thing you don't do with a non-exclusive is put it in MLS. And that's what you guys are trying to accomplish, but you're using the wrong form. You're using the exclusive, which requires that it go into the FMLS and Georgia MLS. And really what you need to do is have the seller sign the non-exclusive. And what I was explaining to the other agent is that you can have them also sign an exclusive at the same time, but you would have to put it would not go into effect until such and such time. And I can give you guys, I can email you copies. I've been having terrible problems with my email this morning. It's just like stuck and I cannot get docs to come in through. And anyway, so I can send you guys some of the suggested language that I went over. But what you're in essence trying to do is you're trying to market this property as in essence coming soon, not have it on FMLS and Georgia MLS. We have a doc that will allow you to do that. And it's the non-exclusive seller brokerage agreement. And so that needs to be the doc. If you have someone who's not ready, but they want to go ahead and commit to you, don't have them sign the exclusive, have them sign the non-exclusive, and then have them sign the exclusive when they are ready to go live. Or if you want to go ahead and get it signed at that time, there you put in the future date, the term May 20th to August 20th. And the on-market date is May 22nd, for example, and you state that this is when the exclusive goes into effect, and then you are able to input it at that time. But the problem is if you just have the standalone exclusive, you are violating all kinds of rules by having that. And potentially, with that exclusive, cherry picking who gets to see it, this person does, but this person doesn't. That could become a nasty, nasty situation. Somebody else raised their hand?
Oh, I was just going to ask, is this new? Because this is a whole new way of doing things.
That was my question. So if it's not,
It's been this way since I've been licensed 26 years. This rule has existed since I've been licensed.
so this is the way that you've always.
This is the way that it's always been done. And the thing that kind of brought it to a head was the coming soon status that was created by agents wanting to put things and not have things on the MLS and put it in coming soon. So Georgia MLS and FMLS came up to speed and created a coming soon status. But they've always required that you input your listings if you have an exclusive agreement within 48 hours. They've always required. Now they just have this coming soon status, which you can do for up to 30 days. So the problem we have is agents have situations where sellers are not going to be ready within within 30 days, and they need more time. So in order to be compliant, you have to do the non-exclusive for this amount of time, and then that will be killed and die immediately when the exclusive goes into effect or is signed. And then when the exclusive goes into effect, that ratchets it up a notch because now you have all that exclusive power, but you must, within 48 hours, have it in that database. And if you don't want it to be on market, then you can put coming soon. But there's really no need for the coming soon status once you enter it in the system. If your on market date is here and you had a completely separate agreement called the non-exclusive, allowing you to put a sign, allowing you to show it by appointment only, allowing you to do everything except for the FMLS and Georgia MLS. That's the power that that document has.
Okay, it just feels like it's just brand new. I mean, I'm still a new agent, so maybe I would have known that anyway. I'm only 1 year in. This doesn't sound like something that was widely discussed at all.
It's not, that's exactly right. It's not widely discussed, but guys, I'm just going to use this as an example with the NAR lawsuit. That there were sting operations done, countless sting operations, and I believe they were across many states, done by the feds, where they were posing as investigators were posing as sellers, and you had agents out there saying things that and telling and advising sellers of things that were not new laws. These were long-standing, decades-long federal fair trade practice laws, okay, in Section 8 of federal law. And you had agents out there breaking rule number 1, and they were listening to the practices within their own organization and within other organizations that this is how we close the deal with the seller. This is what you tell the seller, blah, 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 blah. And they're breaking rule number 1 again and again and again because everybody else is doing it this way. It must be okay. And then it all blew up in a big, glorious way. But it blew up because everybody was out there breaking rule number 1 on a large enough scale that the Department of Justice said, what does all these firms have in common? They're members of the National Association of Realtors, so they filed a lawsuit. Then you get a spinoff lawsuit where attorneys are like, they see an opportunity, so let's do a giant class action lawsuit with 268,000 sellers. And so I'm trying to be the one that says, guys, we've got a hole in our boat. We're not doing it right. We're breaking rule number 1. We need to actually figure out how to do things correctly and compliantly and structure them properly so we don't have that hole in our boat.
Okay, so for those of us that have a contract signed that we have not entered into the MLS and it's an exclusive, and the seller does not want to go live on their listing for another 2 weeks, what do? We cancel that contract that we have? What is
to terminate that one and have them sign the non-exclusive, and then they will need to sign an exclusive one that can go into effect and go in the system within 48 hours after the end of that term, or when that non-exclusive is expiring, or whenever they are ready to go live. So either, but you've got to kill the current exclusive, get them to sign the non-exclusive so you can do all the things you're doing, like trying to market it and this and that. If you have them sign a new exclusive, you have to put a special stip in it that says it will go into effect on such and such date, and the term of it has to reflect that. Like I use the example, May 20th. All parties agree this goes into effect, and then my on-market date will be like May 21st or May 22nd, and then it'll be this long.
Got it. Now, if it's in 2 weeks, can't we still just enter it in and put it in coming soon? Or
Yes,
is
you
it
can.
because
Yes,
that
if
date
you're in
is?
that 30-day gap, you can put it in MLS. And you see here on this rule that I have on the screen, if you do happen to sell it during coming soon, or you happen, and you have to present all offers. So if somebody wants to make a blind offer, one thing you can't do under a coming soon status is show it. So if you're going to stick with what you've got, then you can't show the property. You
Right.
have to
I'm
enter
not
it.
trying to show it. I just don't want to keep asking them to re-sign something they already
Got
signed.
it. And you can put it in the MLS now and put it on coming soon status since you've only got 2 weeks and not have to get them to redo anything.
Okay, well, that's not going to show up, or it is going to show up on Redfin and Zillow as coming
I
soon.
do not know the answer to that, but I know it's going to show up as coming soon. It can't be shown and you can't make any exceptions to that, because if you cherry pick who gets to
Well,
see
yeah,
it.
I'm not interested in showing the property. I just don't want to
Okay.
keep sending that. That's not why I'm asking. I'm asking because I'm going to look quite incompetent asking the seller to sign something and then sign this and sign that. And
You can
so,
go ahead and enter it now and you can put it in coming soon status until your on market date.
okay, and then if I still use the contract that I have, what risk do I face with the fact that this was already signed earlier and an earlier date is there?
Not a lot. Nobody's gonna really ding you for that if you go ahead and enter it and list it
Okay.
and put it in coming soon status. I mean,
Okay.
again, a lot of these, the listing services, they have a responsibility of porting data out to these big national websites. And one of the biggest things, a lot of people say, well, FMLS only cares about the fact that they get paid their fee. Well, that's true. That's how they make their money. However, they also have a responsibility to port data to Realtor.com, Zillow, Homes.com, and all these other national sites. And one thing we all have to remember is sold data. Sold data is huge. Sales price data is used by appraisers to determine appraised values. That sold data they get from the MLSs. We've got to, that's one reason why Georgia MLS has the same exact, one, but not the only reason they have the same exact policy, is because they need the data that those listings provide.
Got it. Got it. Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, let me show you the compulsory counties. This map is available on the FMLS website. Anything in green is a compulsory county. So if you are a member, and all of you guys are members of FMLS, because it's a all or nothing membership. So if the broker that holds your license is a member, then you're a member. And so if the property is located in one of these counties that's shaded in green, then it has to be entered into FMLS if you have an exclusive listing agreement and if it's residential. There are exceptions and there is rules and stuff where things like commercial property or certain other types of property don't have to be listed, but residential properties do. And I think including new construction, if the broker is a member of FMLS and it's new construction, they also have to be entered when they get to the drywall stage. If they are still available and builder has not sold it as like a pre-sale or a build to suit, or when it was at the stud stage, whatever it is, then if that broker who's doing the advertising has that exclusive listing agreement signed, then they have to actually enter new construction as well at a certain point. And I want to say it's drywall stage. This is the rule from Georgia MLS, and it's going to read basically the same. If you have that power, which is that exclusive listing power, where the seller themselves can't even market their own property, you have all that power as the listing broker, listing agent, then you actually have to enter it into their system as well within 48 hours of the date that it was signed. Unless you have a seller who's not ready yet, who needs a month or 2 months or 3 months or however long to get the property ready, and maybe they're doing renovations or whatever, you do the non-exclusive during that time and then the exclusive when they are ready. That's basically the key, the kicker. Here's a copy of your non-exclusive. It's GAR form F104, and you could put in this special stip. This is a special stip that you could do if they're going to sign the exclusive later on. But I did also come up with an alternate idea where you could get the exclusive signed at the same time and just put the dates of when it starts and stops further out the on-market date further out. And then that can always be amended and changed with the GAR amendment to brokerage agreement if need be. But you can state that it goes into effect on that date. And that date would be like 1 to 2 days before the on-market date, so that you would have this as your plan A when you're sitting there with the seller. You walk out of the house with this signed, then you also have the exclusive signed going into effect on May 20th, for example. Carlin?
Yes, so if we do, like you said, if we date it forward to when we know or we presume that they're going to be able to go live, but we do we still have to get the non-exclusive? Let's say
Yes.
it's 2 months out. We still do have to get that.
I would say yes, and I'm telling
Okay.
you why, because if you want to do any marketing at all, you have to have a written agreement to do so. And you're stated in your non-exclusive that if you stated in your non-exclusive that you're, in your exclusive that it's not going to go into effect on May 20th, then it has no power and no teeth.
Got it.
So I would
Okay.
highly recommend you get this done, and you can do whatever limited marketing the seller wants, but you could also show the property.
Exactly. Okay, cool. I didn't know if signing that exclusive, even with the date forward. So if it's when that date it's activated, that I can start doing those things if I only did the exclusive.
Right. You can do nothing at all. It's
Yeah,
like you have
exactly.
overlay. And this is
I can
like,
say,
this
oh, I've
is-
got a non-exclusive. That's what I can do.
This is, and this also establishes a client relationship. So this is a very valuable tool because it establishes a client relationship and literally, quite literally, allows you to do anything you can do with an exclusive except for the MLS.
Okay,
And I have
that
agents
sounds
say to me, well, doesn't that mean that the seller could go out and sign another one of these non-exclusives, or they could go sign with another agent? Yes, they could. But if you've got this relationship built with them and you're there nurturing that relationship, the likelihood of that happen is less than 1%. It's
Right.
also less than 1% that they would sign an additional non-exclusive with another broker, because guess what these docs have in them? Compensation. And how many sellers are going to want to sign an agreement with you to pay compensation to you, and then go out and sign an additional one to go out and sign with another broker to also
Sure.
pay them, and potentially be in a situation where they owe both brokers? They're not.
No, exactly. Okay,
It's
great.
all about the power that the exclusive has and how you have to be fair to your, which again, guys, what was the NAR lawsuit all about? Unfair trade practices. So we have to be fair to our fellow competitors and fair to the public. So if the seller's giving us limited authority and limited rights, but yet we're having rights, but we don't want MLS and FMLS yet because the seller's not ready, this document quite literally gives you all that power to do all those things. And you tell the seller, this is a segue. This is a segue to the exclusive. And the reason I don't do the exclusive with you today is because if I do, I've got to enter it into the listing service within 48 hours, and we're not ready there. We're not there yet. If you can convince anybody to do anything that they need to do, as long as they understand what's in it for them and how it benefits them. And I think when you come to them with a game plan and they understand that you understand the legalities better than the other people, and that you have this appropriate game plan, and you're not trying to skirt a rule and stipulate over a rule and, whatever, to me, that makes you look a whole hell of a lot more competent, in my opinion. I appreciate you, Carlin, because you're such an adoring fan. Carlin's like, yay. Yes. So we're going to jump down here and look at a couple more. These are advertising rules. Now, advertising rules are born out of license law. So advertising is any manner or method of activity which a license lead through use of any media at all, makes known to the general public real estate for sale, lease, or exchange. Media is print ads, photographs, broadcast, business card, billboards, radio, television, signs, email, etc., etc., etc. Misleading advertising. You cannot advertise anything that is misleading or inaccurate in any way to any material fact which may represent any real estate is prohibited. You can't basically advertise this apartment in this finished basement the way the client wants you to, because that would tell the public that it's a proper multifamily property when you know it's zoned single family all day long. So you can say it's a finished basement and it has a kitchen. And then if you find out that the seller did not get any of that permitted, they need to disclose that in the seller's disclosure, or you need to. They don't have to rip it out. They don't have to repair it. They don't have to do anything. They just have to disclose. By the way, we did that, but we didn't get it permitted, because the buyer needs to make an informed decision that it was not permitted. All advertising by associate brokers, salesperson, community association managers must be under the direct supervision of their broker and in the name of the brokerage firm. You are a finger attached to the body, and the finger can never stand alone. You have to have written permission from the actual owner or owner's authorized signer to advertise. Again, this is born out of license law. Discriminatory advertising is prohibited, and you cannot try to attract groups. And it says here under discriminatory advertising, no advertising shall be directed at or referred to persons of a particular race, color, religion, handicap, familial status, or national origin. The contents of any advertisement must be confined to information relative to the real estate itself. We don't mention people in our advertising, including families. Internet advertising. Any advertising on the internet by a licensee of the property shall include the name and telephone number of the licensee's firm on every viewable web page. When advertising in electronically messages with limited characters, licensees shall provide a direct link to display that is compliant with this rule. So if you're ever in a situation where you're trying to post something on social media, or you're posting something somewhere that you do not have enough characters to put all of the compliant information regarding a property, you have to provide a direct link that when the link is clicked on, it opens up and shows the name of the brokerage phone number, and all the other compliance factors that have to be there for advertising specific property. Think of it this way. Your finger attached to the body, so there's never any instance where you as the licensee can stand alone. You remove the finger from the body, the finger can absolutely do nothing. It is useless. It's going to start decomposing immediately. It has no power. The body still has power and can function without that finger attached, but the finger cannot function without the body attached. So that is the analogy that I think really resonates a lot with agents, and the Real Estate Commission actually loves that analogy. They're like, that's absolutely correct. And so you, as a licensee, can never stand alone. And certainly if you have a team name you market under, that can absolutely never stand alone. If that team name is out there advertising that your team name without the name of the brokerage that holds your license, if that is a corporation, you could actually be charged with practicing real estate under an unlicensed firm. And that is a big, 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 nasty no-no. So we don't want to do that. But you can advertise your team name, but you have to advertise the name of the brokerage that is actually practicing real estate, and you in your individual name as well, because you are the licensee and you're actually practicing real estate. Internet advertising continued. Information from your website, if you are the one that maintains it, must be updated or outdated information removed, or something updated showing it has sold, whatever, if this is something you control, within 30 days. If you do not have control over it and you have like a webmaster that is actually in charge of your website, then you have to actually prove that you notified that that webmaster in writing to make those updates. And if somebody files a complaint against you for not updating the advertising, you can prove that you sent instructions that they haven't followed through on. Firm names and telephone numbers. All advertising of property, including websites where the public can search for properties, must include the firm name, firm phone number. Firm name and phone number must appear in equal or greater size, prominence, and frequency of the name or names of any affiliated licensees or groups of licensees. This little comment here, groups of licensees is the closest you're going to find to any reference to teams in any of our license laws or Georgia Real Estate Commission rules on advertising. They are literally, other than that comment about groups of licensees, the rules are silent on the use of a team name. The Real Estate Commission tolerates it, even though it's not something that you officially have permission to do. But they tolerate it under a couple of conditions, that in addition to your team name, you, the individual licensee's name that's doing the marketing piece, is also there, and that the name of the licensed firm, Keller Williams Realty Metro Atlanta, for example, is also there, and that your team name does not exceed the frequency or font size or prominence of your name or the broker's name, or it can exceed your name, but it can't exceed the broker's name. So that's very important. It can be equal in prominence, but it cannot be greater than. Here's a nifty little thing I want you guys to do. If you go into the Real Estate Commission website, and you guys know, you should know, if you don't, log into FMLS and you'll see it in your profile, but or look yourself up in the Real Estate Commission, but you are affiliated with a firm. And if you want to find out what name or names the Real Estate Commission is expecting to see when you're identifying a firm name, look your firm that you're licensed with up by license number. When you look it up by license number rather than name, it shows you all of the legal names that are on file with the Real Estate Commission, and this is what they are looking for. And they're very specific about it. So I've had agents say, well, I put KW, on there. Isn't that good enough? KW is not listed on here as one of the names that's on file with the Real Estate Commission. And these are Real Estate Commission rules and Georgia license law. So if, for example, Carlin, you were to input the H number or the firm license number of Keller Williams Realty Metro Atlanta, and you inserted that number, you don't have to put the H in front of it, you just put the number, then it would show you Metro Atlanta LLC, it would show you KW Metro Atlanta, it would show you everything that the Real Estate Commission has that's on file, which is a proper name that can be used by you as the licensee in your marketing. This one here on the screen is from Signature Partners in Cobb County. And they are known as Signature Partners LLC, but they have DBAs registered to use the name Keller Williams Realty Northwest LLC, Keller Williams Realty Signature Partners without the LLC, Keller Williams Realty Signature Partners LLC, and KW Commercial Signature Partners. Those are all the names, either the one on the left column, which is the corporate name, or the DBAs on the right column. As long as any of their licensees are using one of these names in their marketing that are on file with the Georgia Real Estate Commission, they're compliant and meeting all the other requirements. Here's a couple of examples of property advertising. So I always say, whenever you are advertising something I want you to imagine that the business card or the postcard is glued to the table, and that the investigator looking at it can only see the one side. I want both sides to be compliant. So technically, under the Real Estate Commission rules, if I was not advertising property and it's just a business card, all I have to do is identify the name, not the logo. Real Estate Commission doesn't care that much about logos unless logos have words in them. They care about the words, and the font size of the words that might be embedded in that logo. That's what they're looking at. So if I have a piece of artwork, that's good, fine, and dandy, but that's not what they're looking at. They're looking at the font size and frequency of the actual words. So, so if I have a business card, for example, I could actually have Angie Mezza-Smith with Keller Williams Realty Buckhead, which is where my license is held, and I wouldn't have to have the company logo if I didn't want, as long as I had Keller Williams Realty Buckhead, and my name and everything could be more frequent than Keller Williams Realty Buckhead. It could be larger. and Keller Williams Realty Buckhead's phone number would not be required because of the fact that I was not advertising property. I'm just doing a business card, but I can't put just my name as a realtor on the back of that business card or my team name or something on the back of that business card without mentioning the body I'm attached to, because both sides of that card need to be compliant. This example is an example of a postcard where a house is being advertised. It has to be compliant on both sides. And since property is being advertised, it has to have my name as the individual licensee and the licensed firm, and my name and my and or team name, if I had one, could be there, but they could not exceed the frequency, font size, or prominence of the name of the licensed firm. And since property is being advertised, it also requires that I include, in addition to my phone number, the office phone number of the main office of that broker that's on file. So if you look here at the left side, you'll see where I've got my name, Angie Mezza-Smith, and then I've got Keller Williams Realty Buckhead, and then I've got my direct number and the office number. All of those are in the same font size. Then as a bonus, just to make sure I'm, for branding purposes, I've got the Keller Williams Realty Buckhead logo at the bottom. It can exceed the frequency of my name. It can exceed the frequency of my team name. If you want anything to exceed font size, prominence, or frequency, it's got to be the firm name and or the firm phone number, not the other way around. And that's what most agents are doing, though. They're actually using their team name this big, the name of the brokerage this big, no phone number, sometimes a phone number, sometimes not, sometimes no mention of the broker. But very, very important. And again, guys, these are not new rules. These rules were changed, I'm going to say, 23 years ago, where you had the font size frequency over 20 years ago. Now, because I want both sides of this marketing piece, if it were to be glued to a table, I want to make sure, since it is a marketing piece for property, I want to make sure it's compliant on both sides. So I am actually putting on the back my return address, and I'm identifying that I'm with Keller Williams Realty Buckhead. And then I'm putting at the very bottom both my number and the office number. And as an added bonus, plus for marketing purposes, I'm sticking the Keller Williams Buckhead logo. Now, if I swapped that Keller Williams Buckhead logo and put the Angie team logo, then I would be possibly running into a problem if that team name was larger, more prominent, or more frequent than the name of the licensed firm. So when in doubt, you're going to want to make sure you're erring on the side of putting the licensed firm more frequently or the same, but never, ever your team name or your individual name can be more frequent, more prominent, or more bold, or your phone number more frequent or prominent or bold than the firm name and firm phone number. Here's what we see a lot of on social media, where agents are out there on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and they're out there advertising themselves as being in the real estate business. See it every single day on millions of different things, sometimes on their websites, sometimes it's got their team name. Again, if you have only your team name and that also is an incorporated so that you can get paid to that team or paid to that entity, you could be looking at advertising as an unlicensed firm. That is a big deal. The Real Estate Commission actually turns those cases over to the Attorney General's office. It's not good. So again, this is just a social media post or me advertising no property. If I was advertising property, I'd have to add the firm phone number here as well, and I'd have to also make sure that the font size and frequency of the words in the logo Keller Williams Realty Buckhead met or exceeded the size of the words in Angie Mezza-Smith, which they don't. But because this is not property advertising, I can put that Keller Williams logo there, and the words Keller Williams are smaller than Angie Mezza-Smith, but it's okay because this is not advertising property. And you'll notice it doesn't have the main office phone number because this isn't advertising property. But if you look to the right, this is what we see. Angie Mezza-Smith, real estate, cute little logo I found on Canva. But it says I'm in the real estate business, but I'm a finger attached to a body. I can't do anything without the body, yet I don't have the body mentioned anywhere. So that is a problem, and yet we see this all the time. Final wrap up, and then I'll take questions because we have to be mindful. Tom has a class starting at 1. So final wrap up. There's no such thing as you identifying, advertising yourself in any way, shape, or form. Voicemail, greeting, email, signature, anything you do, any ad you do, where you're saying, I'm in the real estate business, without identifying the name of the licensed firm that you, the finger, is attached to, period. That's absolutely 100% always going to be the case. If you have an LLC or corporation and you advertise that company without clearly including the name of the Georgia licensed firm that you are licensed with, you can be charged with practicing real estate under an unlicensed firm. When property is being advertised in any way, the name of the licensed firm, brokerage, as well as the phone number must be equal or greater font size, prominence, and frequency as the name and number of the licensees, and must appear on each web page, because each web page, when it's a website, they will look at the fact that as a whole, even if that particular page, they do not have properties on that page, like doing the About Us, as a whole, a website is going to be a resource for people to be able to actually search properties or see properties that are posted there and advertised, and that is huge. So it's extremely important that all web pages meet the property advertising requirements. Okay, we've got like 14 minutes left, give or take. Any comments, any questions at all? Feel free to unmute yourself.
Angie, getting back to the whole familial status, we were always putting in listings, great school district, become a part of the Burgess-Peterson family, that kind of thing. Are there words we shouldn't, like, should I not be using the word family there? How
I
does
don't
that
like,
go?
I tell people that family's the F word and you don't put the F word in your advertising.
Okay.
I think it's too problematic. And while you'll have some attorneys that say, oh, well, you're just saying it'd be a nice family home. Well, are you trying to tell a single person with no pets that they're not welcome to buy this house? It's not
Right.
about how you, the one that's posting it, feels. It's about the one on the receiving end feels, and whether they feel you're discriminating or stating a preference for. If you're stating a preference for, it's just as much a violation as stating a preference against.
Sure.
So if it's a group of people you're referencing, just like individual people, you don't mention people. You don't mention, anything about people or groups of people. You mention the real estate, and the real estate.
Got it. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Amy, did you have any follow-up questions?
No, my head's just spinning. Every time I come to one of these, I feel like I need to change how I do things.
And, if you want to have a one-on-one with me, and we can, like I did with one of our other top agents, I can help you get some stuff situated if you want. You just let me know, we'll book it.
No, I mean, I just find these so helpful. It's one thing when you have someone who's like a come list me call and they sign everything and it's all easy. And I've had a lot of questions from sellers and we're still ironing out questions about different scenarios. And now I have to go back to them and say, oh, that listing agreement I sent over, I'm going to send you a different one. And then I'm going to send you that one 2 days before we go live. It's just, yeah.
I know. And see, this is why, it's hard, because I can't just continue to ignore that we've got things that we're not doing correct.
Oh no, I'm glad to know this. And I it's sad to me that there's so few people on the call. Like maybe we should be doing this during team meeting or something.
I'm more than willing to do this during team meeting. I just actually dusted this class off and redid these slides because I haven't taught this class in a hot minute. And it was I taught it last week in Cartersville, And it was, I think it was very eye-opening for a lot of agents. But when they understand the big picture of the power that you have as a broker with, for example, the exclusive seller listing agreement and wanting to have your cake and eat it too, and having that convenience factor of, oh, let me have all this exclusive power, yet let me nail down that seller, but not make it open to the public and disregard all these rules just because I can write a special stip and do that. Well, we have similar requirements with our buyer brokerage. A lot of agents are wanting to write special stips in there to say that the buyer will allow the seller to consent to this much, but the buyer's on the hook for this much. And they're trying to write special stips to allow that. That is absolutely not in line with the NAR lawsuit settlement. The buyer has to be on hook for everything that the seller is on the hook for, and they can't agree that a seller can pay more than they themselves are willing to be on the hook for. And that is something that we are saying, no, if you, for example, negotiate a buyer to pay you a compensation in the amount of 3% of the purchase price, then you realize that a seller is offering and advertising a larger amount than that, then you can do an amendment to your buyer brokerage agreement and you're not in violation. But you can't have them agree to that hypothetical higher amount that somebody else besides them, the buyer, is actually authorizing, because they've got to be legally on the hook for every penny that they're asking a seller to be on the hook for. Yes, would that require an amendment? Yes, because now you have information, since you found a property, that the amount is different. And what I'm teaching is that you go to that buyer presentation appointment and show them a sample of the amendment and say, if this scenario happens, I'm going to present this amendment to you, and I'm going to let you know I need you to sign it to consent so that my brokerage can make more money than we have you on the hook for. It's the same thing as you going to this listing appointment, Amy, and saying, you're not ready for the MLS. This contract requires Georgia MLS. We'll sign that, but we're going to put an effective date on it in the special stip that says it will not go into effect until May 20th. In the meantime, I want to be able to do some marketing and maybe even show your property appointment only if that works for you. And we're going to get some buzz created about it. And you're going to sign this non-exclusive, which gives me the right to go ahead and start marketing it in every way possible, except for the Georgia MLS and FMLS.
Okay, so that makes sense. If I have them sign both at the same time, do I have to know when our on-market date is?
Yes.
I have to put that in the exclusive. Okay.
And it can always be amended. It can always be amended later, but you have no enforceable contract. It's just like to be determined. If you put to be determined in a contract, and this came out of the mouth of Seth Weissman, who is, one might argue, a contract expert. If you put to be determined or anything vague that's ill-defined as a term of an agreement, it renders it void. It's worthless. You have to have an agreed upon set of terms, a start, a stop, a price, all those things. Can they be amended if that changes? Yes. Does that amendment need to be in writing? Yes. We have to respect our brokerage agreements as the contracts that they are. They're contracts just like a purchase and sale agreement. And if we're going to amend a term on a purchase and sale agreement for a buyer or seller we're representing, we would absolutely have to do an amendment and get them to sign it. Well, we have to do the same thing with brokerage agreements. As new information comes about, circumstances change, dates change, we need to do an amendment to the brokerage agreement. We have a wonderful little form for it.
That makes sense.
I'm glad, I appreciate the feedback, Amy, that it's helpful, and I don't expect anybody to eat an elephant all at one time. I'm here to help. And if those of you who do a lot of listings, I mean, I will help you with special stip language. I will help you figure out which forms you need. And if you just make some very minor adjustments into what you're doing, it's not going to be applying in every case. It's only in cases where somebody is wanting to get a game plan, get that ready to commit to you, because obviously they're ready to commit or they wouldn't be signing anything. And they want this lag time before they actually get opened up to the full Monty, FMLS, Georgia MLS, lock boxes, the whole bit. But you need to have your pre-listing, non-exclusive, that gives you marketing rights and all these other things, including the right to put a sign out that says coming soon, but absolutely says you do not put it in Georgia MLS or FMLS. And like I said, I'll be happy to help anybody who wants guidance on how to structure that. But I do not like floating around with a hole in the boat. I don't like you guys floating around with a hole in the boat. And I realize there are brokers out there skirting it and adding special steps that say, I want my cake and eat it too. I want exclusivity, but then I also want to completely stipulate that I'm violating all the rules. That's the same thing as doing a buyer brokerage agreement and violating the terms of the NAR settlement and saying, a buyer, I'm going to commit you to pay 1% of the purchase price if you end up having to pay it out of pocket, but you're going to agree that the seller can pay 4%. Well, Guard tried that. They created a doc that worked exactly like that in June of last year. And when it was reviewed, it was shot down, and it was deemed to not be fair to the public, and it's not fair to sellers that the sellers would be on the hook for more than the buyer themselves would be on the hook for. But you can commit to something and then amend it. We just have to prepare our clients. This makes you valuable. This makes you smart. When you know and understand the legalities better than other people, and you understand the game plan and you prepare them, I think that endears you to a client far more than somebody that's just kind of going out there trying to fudge it, you know? Any more questions? Okay, Tom's coming up with part 4, I believe, which is the amendment to address concerns and due diligence. He's coming up in just a couple minutes. You can log out and log back in on the same link at 1 o'clock if you would like to join Tom for Contracts 101. I believe, like I said, it's part 4, and that is going to be discussing the amendment to address concerns and the proper way of structuring that and just due diligence in general. So I appreciate you guys all being here. Did you have another question, Amy? I see you're unmuted.
Oh, no, I just wanted to thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it so much. I see Zena. Thank you too, Zena. I appreciate it. And I'm going to continue to speak out. And I just want you guys to be the smartest, most well-prepared agents. And to me, that's a sense of security. If I've got all my ducks in a row and I've got them all lined up and I've got things locked down the way they need to be locked down and I'm doing things right, then I don't worry that I'm building a house of cards business. I have no, or firm. I feel secure and empowered by that. And I want you guys to feel secure and empowered by that. Okay, guys, I'm gonna thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and cut out of the meeting. And everybody have an awesome day. Talk to you
Thanks,
later.
Angie. Appreciate it.
Thank